Hello, this is Sabina at Cross Keys Crafts with a slightly different video today because I'm going to record this over days, if not weeks, and I won't be posting this straight away. It is the 17th of January today, and I already know that I won't be posting my whole project till later in the year because I'm making something that I want to send in for the Cardmaker of the Year competition here in the UK. And I don't want to post anything until after the winners have been announced, whether I win or not. And you have to send in 2 cards. One of them I already know where it's going to be. The second one I've got in my head, and again I'm going to record that at a later date. But the non-card project, you have to make something that is not a card, and I have decided to create this gingerbread carousel or merry-go-round. This came about, I saw something in a Facebook post the other week, and somebody had made a card with this theme, carousel theme, and I was fascinated by that. I've always been fascinated by carousels, and if I see one somewhere, I like to have a go. I know I've been on one in Rome and one in Paris. I just love them. And so I thought, yeah, that would be great as my project. And what I did in the last 2 days is I took loads of notes, designed it in my head, and then wrote it down as well so I can take it out of my head and it wouldn't occupy me too much. And my creativity went away with me a bit, and I had loads of ideas that I scribbled down here. So today I thought I start making pieces for this roundabout. I still have to figure out, it will have a mechanism where you turn it. It will be 3D obviously, so I have to figure out how to build this all. But I think I can do that if I work it out properly, if I work out the measurements properly. So I will be filming every time I do something, create something, so that I have got the full process on video. And as I said, once it's finished, I will, and once the winners have been announced, I will publish the video. Also, you don't get your project back, so as much as I would like to record as much as I can, because I won't have this carousel for myself, but I can always build myself a second one if I want to. So what I started off with today was this little idea, because the horses sit on a, what's it called, on a pipe. So I thought how to do that. And my theme, the reason why I went for the gingerbread theme is I thought about, what do I have? Little men that can sit on or persons can sit on the horses. And I thought, I've got my little gingerbread man, that would be really cute. And this is how the whole theme developed. And I thought that would be really, really nice. And yeah, so now I had to come up with an idea how I create these poles here. And my original idea was to just create some strips of paper and to whirl these round some skewers. But I found, even though I had the same amount here of red and white, by the way, this is just my own pattern cardstock, so pattern paper that I created. I just printed this off. I designed it just in Word. It's just a table with rows. Obviously it's twice as wide. I just cut this to size, and I then cut strips from it. But when I tried to do this one, no matter which angle I chose, it just showed a lot of red and not enough white, and it was very uneven and it got bumpy in the middle, so I dismissed this idea. So just in case you want to try it that way, don't. So I decided to print off that paper again and to cut it at an angle, which meant I sort of cut it halfway there, and then I basically created strips like this, and I glued them down with my Cosmic Shimmer Quick Grab Glue, and I glued them down on one side. I'm not bothered about these angles here, and I left the skewers as long as they are because I know I will cut them down, but I need to figure out the measurements of my whole carousel first before I know which height I need for these poles. So what I have done is, as I said, I've glued these down on one edge there with the quick grab glue, and it dries very quickly, so it is really good. So I've done that 8 times because I know I will need 8 poles. And then I've already done one. It's not perfect, it's a bit wobbly here on one bit, but it doesn't matter because it will have, the horse will cover a bit of it. So to make it a bit more pliable, I just put on some Pritt glue stick, because the moisture from the glue stick will make it easier to roll this up. So, and I tried it before on the piece of paper. Let me just move this out of the way. But it's important that if you do roll it on the piece of paper, that you keep it down everywhere, because if you don't press it down and keep it sort of tight, it will start to open again somewhere, or it even slides, like it tries to slide in the middle. So you might want to pick it up and just do it gradually. And you've got the time, because you've got the Pritt glue, doesn't dry straight away. And again, it's getting a bit wider here, so you can hold it in place there and just push a bit here. It might make it wobbly a good bit in a few places, because that's the other thing that the glue does. It does expand the paper. So be aware of that. But do it as tight as possible. I thought about using paper straws that you can buy, but they'll be too wide for my project. So that's fine like this. And now again, I'm going to use my Cosmic Shimmer glue. Just apply this just to make sure it'll stay in place once I've gone all the way around. So shall be doing this on the paper again, pressing down, rolling slowly, and once I've got it down, I'll just pick it up and just press it down like this everywhere. And this will face the back anyway, but you want to do it as neatly as possible, and it does get a bit sticky. I will use my anti-static powder later to get rid of the stickiness, and it also wants to tear a bit, so try not to do it too much. It slipped here a bit, so I can remedy that whilst it's still wet. So it looks a bit mess from the back. Don't know if you can see that. It wants to tear a bit there, but it's fine from the front, and that'll be good enough. So that's just the quick thing I wanted to show you today, and I might make something else later that I can show you, but that is what I've got so far. So I'll be making 8 of those. As I said, I will be cutting them to size once I know the height I need. But yeah, I think that looks really nice and gets me in the mood for creating my carousel. So I'll see you later, or tomorrow, whenever, but later in the video definitely, with what I have created. For the second step of my carousel, I need a base and a top, and they are created from an octagon. I'm going to link to a video below how I created this octagon. A gentleman did this in for some woodworking, but it works as well for the paper craft. Mine is 6 inches wide, and because I didn't want it to be too big but not too small, because I've already got some gingerbread men here for reference, so I know exactly what size they're going to be. So I need 4 panels at least. I might cut another one from a thicker cardstock for the bottom just to give it some weight. And I have already cut these to 6 inches, because that way if I put my template on top, I have already cut all the sides there, so all I need to do now is just cut along here. This is just what I wanted to show you. So I've got the template here, that's just paper. You can cut it from something thicker if you wanted to, and all I'm going to do is to take my long bladed scissors and just cut along like this. I thought about using my guillotine, but to be honest, that's just too fussy, and you can see how quickly this works. So there we go. There is one of my octagons. I'm going to do this 4 times now, and then I'll show you how I create the sides. For the side panels, I have cut 4 strips that are 2 inches wide, and they are probably 11 and 5/6 inches long because I'd cut them from A4 cardstock. I'm not too worried about the length at the moment because I will have to cut them down eventually. They're to go round the octagon, so before I measure that, how long they're going to be, I'm just going to score these. So the wider strips, sorry, I'm just going to cut some in a moment as well. The wider strips you need to score at a half, and I just make it easier for myself and just turned it around and scored them at a half again. But you can also score them at a half and 1.5, which leaves you with a inch wide bit in the middle. And then on one of them I have scored at a quarter to make a little tab. I've cut this down here, and now what this does really, it creates the panel for the side, but I will use this to glue this down. So what you then need to do is you take your snips and you create like little teeth just up to the score line, and that is all the way around. You can measure at one point whether you need the full length or whether you can cut one a bit shorter, so I shall figure that out. And then I've also cut 4 panels that are an inch wide that will go in the middle here just to reinforce the base and the top. When you cut craft cardstock, make sure they're facing the same way round. Definitely on my cardstock, one side is a bit rougher and it's got a slightly different colour than the top. So when you adhere them and put them together, make sure you've got all the same sides facing outwards, because you don't want to mix the colours really. If I just show you in comparison, don't know if you can see it well. I think just about the daylight's just going. This one's much smoother and this is much rougher. You can see the texture there, I think. So keep that in mind when you create your merry-go-round. Okay, I have prepared one of my strips. I gathered that because of the length of the side of my octagon, I only needed 1.5 strips of my A4 strips. So I basically used one full size and then half of the other one, which saved me a bit of work because I didn't have to cut the teeth. Also, with the original one, as I showed you before, I started cutting teeth like this. I don't know if you can see that, proper teeth. But I figured out, because I'm not creating a round shape, I actually get away with having this sort of teeth and just cutting in like this. It just saves a bit of work. But one important step I forgot, which I figured out when I did this, is don't only score the line, burnish it as well before you create the teeth, because if you don't do it, the whole line ends up a bit wobbly, and that's one thing you don't want. That's fine if you have a round shape, but if you want straight lines, burnish it first very clearly and then do the cutting, and that will make it a bit more even. Also, with the inner strip, which I have attached now, the 1-inch strip, I offset this one. So this is where I joined the 2 pieces. And by the way, you don't need to score this before, because again, originally I thought I would put this line on a corner. That's why I suggested scoring it, but you don't need to do that. I actually decided now to put it on a straight bit and then covered it with pattern paper afterwards, which will look much neater. But the inner piece, that one, I need to strengthen the whole thing. That I have got the long piece here and the shorter one on this side, so this middle bit where it's joined is actually really sturdy. And I have used my collal glue to attach this bit, because collal glue, once it dries, it really strengthens the cardstock, because my craft cardstock is not very sturdy at all. It's actually quite flimsy. I think mine's from the works, but it'll work fine, because by the time I've added the pattern paper, I think it will have enough weight to it. Now with my octagons, although I've very carefully cut them, I realised not all sides are exactly the same length. They do differ a bit by sort of 2 millimeters. So rather than scoring this and then finding it doesn't quite add up, I'm going to work my way round. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up. I actually will probably start in the middle of somewhere and then mark with a pencil where I need to score. So I'm going round like this. I hope this makes sense. And then I know that this is going to fit. And I'm also going to mark on the cardstock, just looking whether it doesn't matter which way around, where I'm starting off. So if I decide to start off here, I'm going to mark that. Actually put a proper line there. So because it's had, you need to know afterwards when you assemble it where you start gluing it together. So this is where I need to score. So I've never done this before. I'm figuring it out along the way, but hopefully that works. I actually will mark here 3 and 3, so I'm not losing track. And I also remember which way round, because it's easy to turn it round otherwise, and then you might again find that you've measured it properly, but again it won't fit. So have I turned it round? Yes, I have. You could actually mark all sides if you wanted to, and mark all these sections. So, and if I'm not mistaken, sugar. How come this is too short now? See what I've done? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sections, and I should have 8. Okie dokes. There we go. So ignore what I said before. I'm starting again. I'll see if I can take this apart without too much damage, and I'll just leave it as in 2 length. So I have to peel this off. Might start to come apart without causing too much damage. I'll take this off, and I shall cut a longer piece. That's the joy of crafting and of being creative. Sometimes it just doesn't work out the way it should do, but as I said, I'm going to cut a longer piece. I hope you're not crafting along with me and watch this till the end. I'll put a disclaimer in, I think, where I tell you to just do a strip and a half. And yeah, I'll come back when I've remedied my little problem here. Okay, I have now got my long piece of the side strip. I have taken off a bit here, as I said to you before. I offset this a bit, but I took a bit off here where this is going to overlap, because I don't want it to become too thick. So the 1-inch strip is not very long on this side. Just keep that in mind. I also have now scored the lines for all these corners. I have not done that on my scoring board. I have just done that with a silicone mat underneath and a ruler, because I found that was easier than finding the right track in my scoring board. So I've just slightly folded these, and wherever I had some teeth that were actually in the middle of these score lines, I have just chopped them off. Where there were the teeth, where there was a gap there, that was fine, because that's not getting in the way, I think, too much. So, but the others I have just chopped away. The other thing I have already done is, whilst I was doing this, I realised I need some sort of base that this revolves on. This cannot be the base of the actual merry-go-round or carousel, because it moves. The bottom bit needs to move as well. So I have just cut 2 circles out of some sturdier cardboard. This is just scrap, and I put a braid through. I have marked the middle of my octagon and just put this through, and I'm going to, but I'll show you this later, I'm going to glue another piece underneath so this can actually revolve around the bottom bit. And I will have to create a base, and I was thinking about actually creating a round base for the bottom, because if I have got an octagon, if this turns this way, it will sort of reveal some corners, and I think a round base might be nicer. So we'll do that later, but I thought it'd be easier now to put in the bread in here now and find the hole before I attach the sides. I hope I'm assembling this the right way. So either in the right order. I might find I have to take something apart again, but I'm not quite sure yet. So as I said before, and I started doing, I have now marked all these because it's all be on the inside, so nobody will see it. So I'm going to glue these down on the top now and going all the way around. Having said that, I might actually, because this will be sitting on the bottom, I could actually put these underneath, but I'm not sure yet. No, I think I will sit these on the top, so it'll be inside the base. And I will use my quick grab glue for this, and I think I will do it side by side. So I will glue this down, leave it, make sure I meet the score lines there, leave this until it's dry, and then do the next lot. And I think I'll be doing this bit by bit. I will not glue the top bit on yet because I will have to poke some holes for the poles to go into for the horses, so I will figure that out at a later point. But this is what I'm going to do tonight, and I think then I'll leave this until tomorrow at least. I'm just popping in quickly to show you the result. So I have glued all these bits down. I do regret a bit cutting all these teeth off here. I think it might be worth scoring these bits first and then cutting the teeth and making sure you actually have got teeth there, because it does show a few holes, but it doesn't matter too much. The other thing I did afterwards is I cut all the excess, especially corners, off a little bit, and I think I might tidy these up a bit more with my nail scissors. So try to get as close to the edge as I can here, so it won't be too visible. But I think once it's all decorated, it sits down, I think it'll be fine. The other thing I've already shown you there, I've found the middle. I've poked through a hole for my bread, but I just wanted to show you, just for it to work a bit more smoothly afterwards, I have cut two little circles and I've just stacked them on top to give a bit of a gap in between this bit and the base. And I have, as I've shown you this, I've cut the top bit. I actually have cut an equivalent bottom bit that I think I've got in the other room at the moment, which will go in there. And then I've cut another circle with a slightly bigger hole, and that just will sit at the bottom and basically cover the difference between, if you imagine this and it's got another circle underneath, the middle bit is always a bit thicker, and this one glued down will basically level it out a bit. That's the idea anyway. This is what I've figured out so far. So as I said, I'll show you that when I'm assembling this and put this on the bottom base. But yeah, this is what I've created today, and I will do the same with the top bit, which will be the top of the carousel. But again, I will only do one side. I will not put the top on just yet, because I want to have access to this. The same with this one. I want to be able to poke holes in the top and put down the embellishments before I put this on here, because once it's there, I can't do that much without damaging this. I'm also considering maybe putting some strips across here to give that a bit more stability, because the cardstock isn't very thick, but I'm not quite sure about that yet. I'll have a think about this until well, maybe tomorrow, until I continue this. For the base, I have decided to reuse this from the Paper Craft Society box, the Christmas box from last year from Sam Calcott. And this is actually the sleeve that came where you find the papers inside. And I have decided to just use this because it is quite sturdy cardstock, and I think I will also use this to embellish the base and the top all the way around, just to reinforce this. But I just wanted to show you something, how you can take bits off that you don't want to use, because these have all got these pockets. The important thing is, if you don't want to damage your cardstock, is to put the cardstock you want to save on the desk and then peel off the cardstock you don't want to use. And this helps to basically keep this straight. And you can also use scissors or something, go along there, keep this down. You can also use your heat tool if you wanted to. But if you, on the other hand, would pull this up, then this would crease. But this way, only this creases, and that's definitely going in the recycling anyway, because I can't use this anymore. And this now is almost perfect to use. It's not creased on the other side where I wanted it, so I can cut this to side, and I might actually put another panel at the bottom, so it is actually quite neat from the bottom as well, and this will be the top bit that the carousel sits on. So that was, I just wanted to show you this briefly.